Hello and welcome back, everyone. A question that comes up quite frequently is how long does it take to stabilize awakening? It's a very interesting question, but in order to really answer it properly, we first have to get a bit of an idea of what we even mean by the term awakening in this context. So when I use the word awakening, what I'm essentially referring to is just the simple recognition and subsequent familiarization with this very awareness that is here right now. This ordinary mind that is hearing these words and is seeing this image right now. Subsequently to this waking up to this awareness, there's also a unfolding into our conventional life, embodiment, we could simply call it. So we familiarize not just with the pure presencing of awareness itself, but then also with how it is to live from this realization, to act, to speak, to think, to do anything from this awareness. So stabilization in this context is really quite the subtle term, because usually when we think of stabilization, we have this idea that there is some kind of state and we want to increase its duration. We want to enhance its stability. But of course, when we are awakening to this awareness, which is always already here, there is fundamentally nothing to stabilize. Awareness is simply not a state, and it's not an object. It isn't something. So there's also nothing to it which we could enhance or stabilize or have more of. So what do we mean when we use the term stabilization in this context? Well, despite the fact that awareness is already here, it strangely seems to be the case that we fall into neurotic fixations and identifications. We seem to become localized as a separate self, and then we subsequently live from this sense of being a localized separate self. So stabilization then is not about having more of this awareness, of which we can't have more. It's only about learning to first familiarize and then to live from this awareness more and more consistently. So instead of operating out of the small self, life is happening from and as this already free and awakened and complete awareness. So having clarified that, back to the initial question, how long does it take for this to become the norm? So we could say most of the time, so to say, we're living from awareness instead of from a egoic center. Well, there isn't really a clear-cut answer here. And having had many conversations with people about this topic, it's not like there is a final shift and then from here on out we're always living from awareness. It's more like incrementally, first, awareness becomes more and more obvious, and then increasingly the river of life is broadened into more and more conventional life situations are clearly felt to be the play and the movement of this awareness. And that, from my experience, is a matter of years rather than days. As a matter of fact, we cannot even say that there is a clear finish line. It's really impossible to think of what full embodiment would even look like. Even if it's just for the simple fact that embodiment is always unique. Your body-mind is not the same as my body-mind, even though the awareness fundamentally cannot be different. So, what exactly your embodiment looks like, how it will show up, will be different for you and me. But gradually, again, in my experience over months and years, it will just become the new norm. Most of life will be lived from this instead of from a sense of being small, of being a trapped, separate self. If you're looking for some kind of hard number, I'm not sure that's going to be very helpful. But I would say it's very realistic to say that within a couple of months there can be a great certainty in the recognition of awareness. And within 3 or 4 years, it is quite possible that most of the time, relatively speaking, will be lived from awareness itself. Again, it's best not to get caught up on these numbers, because the important thing is not projecting our expectations into the future, because then inevitably we will miss this. This awareness is always here now. And we only get to presence and enjoy its completeness here now. So don't wait for stabilization. Enjoy it now, live from it now, and the rest will simply follow.